630 CHED presents The Announcers. Opinion, personality, passion. The Announcers on 630 CHED, Edmonton's breaking news and conversation station.
So incredibly fast. Conor McDavid, who just made that pass? Conor McDavid, who light up the lamp? Conor McDavid, who scared like a champ? Conor McDavid, so incredibly fast. Conor McDavid, who just made that pass? Conor McDavid, who light up the lamp? Conor McDavid.
There you have it. Wow. Edmonton Oilers superstar Connor McDavid, his own rap song that was Raspy Balboa. As we welcome you to this week's edition of The Announcers, J'Lyn Nye joining me, Ryan Jespersen, and a special guest, Bruce Bowie, host of the 630 CHED Morning News. Great to see you.
Thank you, yeah. I was telling you guys that my wife grew up in Port Colborne, Ontario, so I've been there many times, and we still go there when we go back home, but it's not the hip-hop capital of the world.
And that's where Raspy Balboa is from.
Yeah.
Well, how did this get on your radar?
You know, I saw it on Huffington Post, earlier this week, and I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. And we were talking about Connor with the broken clavicle and all that sort of stuff, so I thought that was funny. But what I loved was one of the comments from one of the viewers said, if I was Connor McDavid, I would play that before entering any room. Yeah. If I'm going to the grocery store, boom, it's playing.
Yeah. What a week.
Yeah.
What a week. We're going to talk about a couple of things in this half hour that we have together, uninterrupted by commercial breaks, by the way. But Connor McDavid, of course, in the headlines, not just because his stellar play named the NHL's Rookie of the Month for October, but also because in a game against the Philadelphia Flyers this week, he was sent crashing into the end boards behind the Flyers net. And as you mentioned, J'Lyn, breaking his left clavicle. And it sounds like it wasn't a break as much as it was an explosion of the left clavicle. Peter Chiarelli, the team's GM, saying he'll be out for months. It's been an eventful first couple of months in the show for number 97.
A collective groan went across Edmonton, the capital region, I think the better part of Alberta. And boy, I was watching when it happened, and it was one of those when he got up, and my husband, who used to play hockey, says, "Oh, that's not good. That's not good." And it was just like, "Oh no, come on!" But for me, it's not even so much losing the great player. I feel sorry for the kid.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for him.
Just getting started. So you watched. Did you see anything that looked amiss or anything? The reason I asked, the very next day, some guy calls me, somebody grabbed his pants. And so I mentioned that to Halsey, and he goes ballistic, but no, he said, no, it was just like he caught an edge or something. And,
I think he just caught an edge, and I mean, there was no penalty on the play, and neither of the players implicated have really been known as dirty players. Michael Delzato, and I can't even remember who the other player was, the other Philadelphia player, but it was interesting. Everybody's been commenting on how this 18-year-old phenom that's been centering Edmonton's top line sort of seems to lack expression. I was talking to one of the individuals I work with the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, I'm there on game nights as in-game host, and he's gotten to know Connor fairly closely. They work together closely, and he says, I'm telling you, all this kid wants to do is win a Stanley Cup. It's the only place where his focus lies, and you saw it. I mentioned when we were talking earlier this week, I'd broken my collarbone. I was a kid when I did it, but I remember how painful it was. McDavid kind of got up, no expression.
Yeah, at first, and that's why we're kind of not sure how bad it was. It was almost like, did he just tweak it? Did he separate his shoulder? Oh, if he separated his shoulder, he's going to be back in a couple of weeks.
People had their fingers crossed.
But then you're talking screws and plates and all the rest. Wow. I mean, that had to hurt.
And it's kind of interesting as well, isn't it, that when an 18-year-old, when an NHL rookie with like 12 games under his belt goes down, people start lamenting the loss of a season. People start crying that the sky is falling. Yeah. I know you've probably got calls in the morning,
we
Bruce.
did. And there's so many other players that have stepped up to the plate recently, too. Leon Draisaitl and Darnell Nurse. And anyway, it seems like everybody they brought back from Bakersfield has said, okay, I want a shot at this. And so, it's going to be a big hit, a big hurt. And I think it was Peter Chiarelli who said now some other guys just have to pick up the slack a little bit. So
team, getting Jordan Eberle back, that's a big deal,
exactly,
and we'll see. Right. I mean, the Oilers are flirting with a playoff spot, kind of trading punches with the San Jose Sharks right now. Still a lot of hockey to play. But we'll see.
It's nice that they're not out of it already, right? It's nice that they're not out of it already. And one of the hockey announcers I was listening to the other night, they said if there's one athlete that can come back and will come back probably stronger from an accident like this, from an injury like this, would be Connor McDavid, because the kid has such focus and passion for the training. He is so hard-headed, so into it, and just committed to being a great player. And I mean, that's been, his entire life. Yeah. This is, watch out when he comes back.
Yeah, I guess the other sort of big story of the week involving Connor McDavid, and we talked about it on Thursday's show, right around 11 o'clock, Wayne Wagner from Wayne's Sports Card and Collectibles let me know that there was about 50 people waiting outside his shop before he opened.
Really?
Yeah, and of course, Upper Deck releasing their Series 1, which is the first Connor McDavid rookie card in those packs. People buying cases and cases and cases, hoping to get their hands on that. And it says something about a player because, I mean, Wayne's been in business for 25 years, not that there hasn't been enough interest to sustain business. There obviously has been. But how many people do you know that are collecting hockey cards or lining up outside stores to buy them?
And what's the deal? You have to play one regular season game before you can put the card up for sale? Is that how it works?
Yeah,
I think that's the rule, actually. So, I mean, I wondered why it took this long before it was released, but I think that's the deal. So.
No,
I don't know anybody that collects hockey cards or any sort of cards anymore. I remember when I was a kid, absolutely. We went and got the cards all the time, the bubble gum, you'd stick it in your mouth, and then we'd go to the school and we'd play, I don't even know what it was some card game. We'd flip it up against the side of the school, and whoever had it tilted up closest to the wall got to take all the cards. But we're talking 1978. I mean, that was a long time ago.
It was the worst gum in the world.
Exactly.
Terrible. Yeah. You had that kind of dusting.
Yeah.
The cards all had dusting on it. Yeah. But, I mean, it speaks to the testament of this, and people have observed this again and again and again, but the examples keep popping up, and the hockey card one is one of them of how at just 18 years of age, there's such an incredible and immense pressure on a kid. When I was 18, I would have been ill-served and ill-equipped to handle even a minutia of what he encounters.
I have to say, I am so impressed when I see him in interviews and things that he just seems to be, as you said, ice in his veins, just so cool, handling it so well. And look how old I am. I remember when Wayne Gretzky came to town, and there was his uncle Larry Messier, who was always wheeling and dealing and putting stuff together. And so some friend of his opened a restaurant downtown, so he invited us, some of us down from the media, to the grand opening. So it was just a long table, and I was there with Wayne, and I think Yari Curry was there. Kevin Lowe was there, I know for sure. Mark Messier. And everybody just kept staring at Wayne. And I thought, this poor kid, he doesn't get a second to himself. Incredible pressure, but he, like Connor McDavid, just handled it well.
And like you said, Bruce, though, a lot of these superstars, and I think of like Michelle Wee, the golfer, would be another example, or some musicians that have been on the national radar, Charlotte Church, maybe since they were very young. It's almost as though when their talents are identified that early in life, and if they're lucky enough to have a solid, parental unit, and I'm not even just implying there has to be two parents in the mix, but they have solid structure and a solid upbringing. Some of these kids have been conditioned to not only understand that they're unique and that they possess special talents, but also that there's a certain way you want to carry yourself, and it seems to be evident to me.
It has to be the upbringing, because it hasn't worked for everybody. And I hate to mention Steve Fonyo names. But anyway, there's
Justin
been
Bieber.
Ryan Leaf.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he must come from a great family.
I've loved reading about Connor McDavid's family, about his parents, and about how it's been all the way through. I forget who did a really great article on it. It was a couple of weeks back, but talking to his mom about it, and you talk about sacrifice. I think anyone who has kids that are playing any kind of sports, it's the early morning hockey games or the late night football games, whatever it is, but to start this and continue it all the way through, but to keep your kid grounded when everyone around him is saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be the next superstar, because we all know parents who think their kid is going to be the next superstar, who are a real pain in the butt. We all know that their kid's not going to be the next superstar, but they're not the ones that are grounded, whereas it seems McDavid's family all the way around has kept that in check from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that probably starts with good management. I know that the Edmonton Oilers have essentially adjusted the way that they do business to accommodate some of the demands that come with having a player of this caliber.
Look back to when Gretzky started here. Look back at those days. Peter Pocklington's in town, coming in, throwing money down on the table, saying, hey, Wayne, can you get 5 goals tonight? Yeah, sure I can. Okay, then that's yours. Going out to clubs, being out in clubs, in restaurants all the time, with really no handlers around, nothing going on. Whereas today,
well, I guess
it's
aside from
story.
Dave Semenko,
yeah, exactly. They had
that's
Semenko,
not a bad
right?
wingman to have in the nightclub, right?
But you talk to a number of people who've lived here for how many years about running into to Wayne and to Mess and to Semenko and all of those guys out at the clubs.
Yeah.
I know it still happens. I ran into, I think, Yari Curry one time at a club, or one of the guys. I can't even remember who it was. But you don't really necessarily see that so much, or the access to them, I don't think, is quite there like it used to be.
I like running into players out and about, and you'll see the odd ones at certain restaurants after games, and some of them out having a drink or two at certain clubs. But you're right. I mean, the day and age is different, where everybody's got cameras on their phones, and everybody's got video, and there's Twitter. And I mean, you take a look at another player, and I don't know if I would compare him to Connor McDavid, but he could have been a number 1 overall pick. He was number 2 behind the Oilers' star left winger, Tyler Seguin, of course, going number 2 to the Boston Bruins, now a star in Dallas, literally. Tyler Seguin, as the rumor goes, one of the reasons why he's in Dallas is because he had a bit of a penchant for partying, and the Bruins didn't exactly see eye to eye with the young centerman. I've always seen it as if I was 19 or if I was 20 years old, I had a Stanley Cup ring and already a few $1 million in the bank. I can't even imagine how I'd be acting.
Yeah. No, you're right. There was a restaurant in town called The Grinder that they always used to go to. Remember that on 124th Street? And I always thought if you owned a restaurant and somehow you could get the guys to come there, and everybody did try to get the guys to come there. I mean, it's like you got a check. You're writing your own check then. The place is just mobbed every night. So hoping to see them.
Yeah.
I remember interviewing Wayne Gretzky for the book, the Peter Pocklington biography that went out in 2008, 2009 now, and I met him for lunch at the Hotel Mac. We sat down, and it was me and my co-writer, and we're sitting there and we're chatting with Wayne, and it was really the first time I'd had a one-on-one with Wayne Gretzky, and I'm like, come on, everyone's like, it's Wayne Gretzky. I was like, it's Wayne Gretzky, and at first really kind of closed off. But once you got talking about those days with him, and he opened up, it was the good old days, the best days of his life, as he would go on to talk about it, and the memories that they had here. And I wonder if those memories would be the same if it was Gretzky now, because of the handling and the way things were done. But he was talking so much about it. He was late. He was supposed to be at the Pro-Am golf thing that day, and I kept looking at my watch. I said, Mr. Gretzky, you're going to be late. He says, chucking me on the shoulder. He says, no, it's okay. It's okay. He was late.
Wow.
The whole news conference was late because he was sitting there reliving those days.
But then I remember he stepped up to the podium and blamed everything on J'Lyn Nye.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll take it. Hey, he was hanging out with me.
Sorry to keep Gretz late, everybody.
We had a promotion years ago at Chad when he was, remember his Pro Star cereal?
Yeah.
Oh, do I ever?
Artificially sweetened and good for you. So we had a promotion where you could win breakfast with Wayne Gretzky. And so people, I don't know, they sent in box tops or something. And some kid in Millwoods won. So we went and did our breakfast show from his house. And Wayne Gretzky and Mike Barnett, his agent, came by. Wow. And we had a professional photographer there to take pictures. And anyway, it was inside the house, but it was a summer day, and so Gretz said, let's go out the backyard and eat on the deck. And it was just the funniest thing because it was one of those cul-de-sacs where there's fences all the way around. There was just these little eyeballs. Every kid in the neighborhood was peeking over the fence, hoping to get a look at them.
Still fascinated by it. It's still a little mind-blowing to me that people can capture someone's attention, or a nation or a city's attention like that. And it's like they can do no wrong. It's, want to be where they are, my kids want to be like them. To have that, I guess it's real power or talent to have that and be able to capture the imagination of people. Wow, that's something else to have.
Though, I mean, none of us can understand the pressure that comes with. You remember Joe Thornton's first year in Boston after he was drafted first overall by the Bruins, and they were using him like 6 or 7 minutes a night, and he was playing on the fourth line, and I think he had, I don't know what it was, like under 20 points his first year, and it kind of didn't really work out. I mean, Thornton's career, he was certainly accomplished by the time he left Boston in that big, weird, lopsided trade that sent him to San Jose, but that's when his career really exploded. Even the superstars know show that if they don't perform, fans can be fickle. I mean, I think a player like Connor McDavid might get a bit of a longer leash, and he's certainly, I think, demonstrated that he's not going to need a lot of leeway from fans. He's kept everybody pretty happy in his NHL debut and moving forward, but I cannot understand what the pressure would be like for someone that young.
Well, you think about it, when you talked about being 18 years old, a multi-million-dollar contract, and, at our age, I mean, I don't even think I had a bank account when I was 18.
Right.
I was shipped off to Thunder Bay by myself, and I was an idiot on my own, right? Yeah. And different world, and in completely different world.
Yeah. I don't know, what kind of handling staff does he have, though? I mean, how many people are working for him behind the scenes?
And around him.
Well, and we're not going to hear a lot about it. And quite frankly, to tell you the truth, there are some things that I've observed at Rexall Place that we don't talk about. So all I can say is that, and I'm not pretending to have any sort of inside knowledge, but there is a big machine that looks after this guy. And, there are a select few NHLers. Sidney Crosby would be another. I would imagine Alexander Ovechkin probably has similar treatment out of Washington. That just they're on another level, and that's saying something. I mean, keep in mind, someone even being drafted, let alone playing a game in the show, is a big deal if you're that elevated above your peers. I mean, Steven Stamkos, it's been suggested, did Connor McDavid no favors by saying that McDavid was better than he was before 97 had even played an NHL game. But
I would love to have been a fly in the wall when the Oilers management, the organization, started to realize that this was a real possibility, that they were going to get Connor McDavid, and say, okay, what needs to be put in place to make sure that this transition is going to be successful, that he is in an environment where he can still be an 18-year-old kid, but still excel and do what we want him to do. I mean, just the moving parts would be amazing.
And from the business side of the conversation, I mean, he's a huge asset for the team as well. I mean, the presence of Connor McDavid and what it could mean for the franchise could be measured quite literally in hundreds of millions of dollars. So no wonder to see him protected. We've got just a few minutes left, and I wanted to make sure, let's turn the page, that we spend some time talking about Remembrance Day. Of course, November 11th will fall right in the middle of next week. And Bruce, you're wearing your poppy now. J'Lyn, yours and mine are on our coats.
Yes.
I realized that as I left my blazer at my desk. But Canadians take time, of course, on November 11th, and I know for both of you it's very special. You've been spending hours preparing for Remembrance Day.
Yeah, it's a pretty big time for a lot of people. For the last 10, 11 years now, I've been responsible for really putting together the service of the provincial, what's called the Provincial Remembrance Day service at the Butterdome. And that transitioned over the years from, at one point, someone from the Legion wrote it, and then it got handed to me, and I write the entire thing, top to bottom. And again, you talk about moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts. So yeah, a lot of pressure to make sure you get it right. But as far as I'm concerned, out of really all of the events that I do throughout the year, and I think we all have different ones that really touch this week, and the events this week, and certainly the service at the Butterdome is the most important and the most close to my heart.
What do you think of on Remembrance Day, Bruce?
Oh man, I'm going to talk to Tom Douglas on Remembrance Day, who's written a number of great books about the war effort and Canadians' heroes, and he's written one on just those who won VCs. And you hear some of those stories, and you just think they were young kids at that time. It's really hard to wrap your head around it. And so, at my age, I tend to think back to that, but now it's changed because we've got veterans who've been in Bosnia and Afghanistan. I was I guess kind of like J'Lyn, very blessed in this business in that I was asked to go and do my show from a peacekeepers camp in Bosnia a number of years back. We lucked out because Colonel Capstick, who ran things here, was a country music fan. And so he wondered, could we do this? And he had a guy, Major Doug Martin, who could just make anything happen. So he wound up rigging up everything technically and whatever had to happen. So I had a little glimpse into that world. And when I was a kid, I always thought I'd like to serve. And I kind of wish I would have for a while, because it's a different kind of different fraternity, sorority, and there is a very special bond with them. And J'Lyn, have you seen Hyena Road with Paul Gross's movie?
I haven't seen it yet.
Because when you see the camp scenes, I think he captured it well, because he spent time at the camps in Afghanistan, and it's just kind of a special atmosphere. And they would do anything for each other, but above and beyond that for their country as well. They really would, and we can't thank them enough.
What about you, Ryan? What do you think about?
I think about my grandpa.
Yeah.
And I know that, Bruce, you make a great point. There have been Canadians serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and Bosnia, and then nobody really seems to mention Korea. Not in the services they do, in the formal services they do, but colloquially, the populace doesn't seem to as much. And then, of course, we know that with World War II vets and World War I vets, we're starting to get to the point where even the storytellers from World War II are leaving us. And I remember my grandpa, who was such a proud member of Canada's Air Force, and certainly instilled that sense of pride in us. It wanted so desperately to be a pilot, and his color blindness prevented that. But he proudly served his country as a mechanic in the Air Force, and also played the bugle. And he would every Remembrance Day dress up in uniform all the way through until his 70s, and he always looked so sharp in that uniform. And he would give that bugle call, and I mean, right now I'm getting chills. Thinking about it.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Very special. And, we didn't have, and by we, I mean society, not high definition cameras, no color cameras back, but I think of those incredible scenes which have been recreated in films. Saving Private Ryan's the first one that comes to mind, but there's a whole ton of them. The beaches of Normandy, or, the different Canadians that have served in different capacities, where I can imagine the terror, the fear, but the conviction that you were doing something important. I really hope that people on Remembrance Day don't just go through the motions. And I don't think Canadians do. I have faith in our population, but I hope people really, really take the time to think about what sacrifice really actually means.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it really changed, and I certainly noticed a change after April 17th, 2002, when Canada lost the first 4 in Afghanistan. And we saw the outpouring of grief, certainly in Edmonton, and we covered it, and we saw in the 154 that followed, and how Canada came together. And really, Canada seemed to rally around its military, almost its forgotten military, it seemed, for a long time, and are so proud again of our men and women who serve. And I think that is just so phenomenal to see. And you think about the men and the women who serve, but I also think about the men and women and the families left behind, what we call the strength behind the uniforms. These people who, as they say, keep the home fires burning, and have to get used to your husband or your wife coming home after being gone for 6 months or 9 months, or maybe not coming home at all, and how the world changes for them.
It's been a big year for you, though, too. I mean, personally, your involvement with your relationship with Canada's forces has gone next level.
Yeah, it changed this year. I was honored in October to be officially invested as the honorary colonel for 408 Tactical Helicopter Squadron with the Royal Canadian Air Force, which is based here in Edmonton.
This is legit.
This is legit. This is uniform, and being with them while they're on exercise, and if they are deployed, it is having that opportunity to go and be with them and support them and see them. And then the biggest goal out of that for me is to turn around and let you know about what it is that they do, and bridge that gap between the Air Force, the military, and the community. And it's just, I'm incredibly proud of it. And my Royal Air Force grandfather, I think, would be very, very proud too.
See, look at you. You're getting, that's good for you.
Honorary
Awesome.
colonel.
Yeah.
Honorary colonel.
Can you be like Peter McKay and call in a chopper if you're on a fishing trip? No.
No.
Not so much?
Not so much. I wouldn't. How about that?
Yeah, there you have it. So Remembrance Day, of course, following Wednesday of next week, and we'll have coverage here on 6:30. Chet, of course, we'll be talking about it. I'm looking forward, if I can shamelessly plug my show just for 1 second. If you missed our conversation with Kent Hare from Friday morning, be sure to check that out at 630ched.com. Of course, the new Veterans Affairs Minister, an MP out of Calgary, former Liberal MLA. And, sometimes a federal election puts issues like Veterans Affairs back on people's radar, and I would imagine the timing of this, coupled with Remembrance Day, I hope that this becomes part of the conversation moving forward.
And just a reminder, if you're going to the Remembrance Day service at the Butterdome, the program starts sharp at 10:30. Be in your seats probably by 10.
You got it. Bruce, thanks for sitting in today.
No, it's great to be here. I wish I had the details, because there was a story in the paper earlier this week about a monument put up for a soldier, I think it was in Lougheed, Alberta, and he was a VC, World War I vet, and he charged a German machine gun nest because he just got fed up because they couldn't move, and he ran straight into it and he took it out. Jeez. And then on that same battlefield, he got shot in the head, and they sent these medics to get him off the field, and the medics couldn't get to him. He finally got fed up and got up and walked to the medic tent himself.
Is it Cecil Kinross?
That's it.
These are the stories that need to be told.
Lest we forget, concert as well Sunday. His family is going to be there.
That's great. Yeah. Awesome.
Bruce Bowie, J'Lyn Nye, and I. You know what? It's so great every time we get to sit down. Thank you for listening to the announcers here on 630 CHED.